It does appear to be a softening of what we saw just a few days ago, but this has sort of been a roller coaster ride on what is trade policy. We don't know, sometimes with people in the administration often conflicting themselves and contradicting themselves. I think one of the things that I'm watching really closely is the escalation. Is it going to get, I think markets have finally sort of settled on the fact that tariffs are going to be around. We are going to see more inflation from that, and we're going to see some retaliation on China. We hope that we can isolate the intellectual property theft issue. I think that's very difficult to do, and I think the leaning of the administration is still very strongly towards a much broader punishment of China and other countries, which means much higher prices ultimately for the tax falls on the shoulder of the U.S. consumer.
So what does that mean, Jim, for corporate America? Are we going to see more announcements like we got from Harley-Davidson and Brown-Forman, which is now raising prices on whiskey because of the tariffs? Is there going to be more to come?
Well, you're going to have reactions here and there, but the reality is most of this has been saber rattling. And if you look at policy and whether it's actually been enacted, there hasn't been all that much that's actually been enacted. So from a portfolio manager, you have to game, these possibilities of punitive policy mistakes, either from the Federal Reserve Board or the administration. So the way we've been gaming it in our more active strategies and active portfolios is buying names on weakness that have been negatively impacted by the news cycle. So whether you're playing the bounce in industrials, you just mentioned them, industrials and some of these big cap tech names. Look, a lot of these big cap tech names people have wanted to own for the last 2 years, but they've been afraid to buy them because they've had such a big rally and they've been so extended. These kind of news breaks give you an opportunity, at least in the short term, to trade these names. Beyond that, look what's happening in the small cap space. Small caps have done very, very well. The last time I was on, I was talking about how it's really a small space, but there's a lot of room for growth. They've underperformed for years, and now we're seeing small cap names do very, very well. So I think there's opportunity in here. I think you can play the news cycle. Yeah, is there a concern that there's going to be broader policy mistakes? It's kind of like that kid throwing a rock at a hornet's nest from a long distance. Maybe he hits it, and it creates a bigger problem than you thought. But at the moment, we think that these things will soften, they will ameliorate, and that creates opportunities for investors.
Hey, Diane, there's some on the street. I think Morgan Stanley is a good example where they're arguing we've seen the highs for the year on the 10-year, that you should buy the 10-year outright. Overweight utilities, for example. Is there danger in that trade or not?
Well, I think there is, in the sense that the good news is that we are seeing the movement into the dollar. We are seeing the movement that is pushing down 10-year yields, and I think that's because we've got an arbitrage opportunity with the rest of the world, and we're seeing that money come in. That's the good news. It's also bad news for manufacturers, compounding the loss in competitiveness, and they now have steel 50% higher than anywhere else in the world, aluminum 80% higher than anywhere else in the world. So they've lost some competitiveness because we've seen some front running of the threats of further tariffs out there that I think is important. The other issue is we still have a lot of debt out there, and you're going to see a lot of debt and deficits pushing those yields back up by the end of the year.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.